Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today we are reading the edgiest of all edginess, the 2003-2004 comic book Wanted.
Feels so dirty reading this.
I know, right? Yeah. And it's by Mark Miller, who you might know from like Jupiter's Legacy fame, Kick-Ass, other such things he did. I can't remember other stuff, but yeah. He's done a lot of stuff like this.
Yeah.
He does a lot of kind of deconstructionist stuff. He also wrote Ultimates from Marvel and stuff.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So, I think he also wrote the Fantastic Four zombie stuff, the Ultimate Fantastic Four stuff. I think he wrote that. I don't know. Anyway, either way, is by him and is by J.G. Jones on art. And this book was put out by Image/Top Cow. Top Cow's the people who do like Witchblade, kind of more. They usually do like more cheesecake stuff or whatever, but I guess they'll do anything too. So he put it out under them. I don't know specifically why it was Top Cow, but I don't even know if this is in print anymore, like an actual trade or anything. But
they made a movie out of it.
They made a movie.
Like, I
yeah.
thought this is...
So you might have seen this movie, and that movie fucking sucks compared to this comic, but also just in general.
It's not even the same.
Yeah, no premise.
Like,
the premise
the story is
different.
so, yeah.
There is no throwing of bullets. Let's put it that way.
Bullet.
There's no curving bullets in this bullshit. So, yeah.
There are lots of bullets, though.
There are bullets. That is true. But, yeah, so this book came out at kind of like a perfect time in the 2000s where, like, not a lot of deconstructionist superhero stuff had come out yet. The stuff that comes out later, like The Boys, Jupiter's Legacy, Invincible, things like that. Invincible had just came out in 2003, the first issue. So it wasn't anything yet. There wasn't even like trades or anything yet of it. Maybe one trade, but it wasn't like getting the fanfare it's getting now with the TV show and everything. And also, like, obviously we'd had Watchmen and we had Dark Knight Returns. That's pretty much the only kind of deconstructionist stuff that had come out. And this is like a different type. This is like, instead of superheroes being bad, or superheroes looking at them like if they were real in the real world and what it would really be like, and or like, what would happen if Dark Knight was real or whatever. This is just like, what if superheroes or supervillains were real? So it's like, let's take the other concept of supervillains. They're real too. What if they're in the real world, and what would that look like? And what kind of people would they be, and what would happen in the real world, and how would they act in the real world, and things like that.
When I first picked it up, I thought maybe because I knew there were some bad people in it, I thought it was going to be maybe more like Brat Pack,
right?
Because I figured there would be some heroes in it, like, but bad things would happen or whatever. But yeah, it was no. I very quickly did I learn that was not correct.
Yeah, this is Brat Pack is about the hero. Well, once again, most of the deconstruction stuff had happened just about heroes, and how they're not perfect, or they couldn't be perfect in like a real world or something, But this is like, well, the bad guys, from what you read in the comics, are fucking silly. Bad guys are fucking bad, and they're going to do a lot of bad stuff. So that's what this book is kind of taking on. It's like, what would the bad guys be like? If the good guys aren't fully good in the real world, then the bad guys must be like way worse than actually are on the page, or whatnot. So,
and they do not hold back.
They do not hold back. I would say trigger warning for lots of things on this book, or whatever you want to call it. It's just a warning in general. Like, they openly talk about rape and murder and I don't know, kids get killed in this.
There's not
racist. There's a lot of racist stuff in this book.
Yeah, racist, sexist talk. There's not a lot that's off bounds for the villains,
as you would imagine.
They're the villains.
They're super villains. So that's another thing about this book is, I mean, imagine as the reader, you want to like the main character, right? You're like, oh, this is the protagonist. But he's a bad guy, so he says terrible things and does terrible things, and everybody else is bad guys and they do terrible things. So you're kind of like, I don't know who I'm supposed to be rooting for. Like, I want to like him, but also he's terrible, and it's just shocking when he says things.
Yeah, no, you have like a couple pages of like maybe you feel for him, and then he does something absolutely horrid, and you're like, nope.
Yeah, I think what they were going for in this, and we'll kind of get into it as we dig into the first half of this book, but the first issue really makes you kind of feel bad for him, and I think that was on purpose, because if you don't relate to him at all or feel bad, any empathy for him at all, you cannot go with him on this journey, I don't think. So they really wanted to make sure like you at least felt something for this guy's life, that it was shitty and all that stuff. So that when you get to the part where he's like, oh, I'm a supervillain, I can do all this cool shit, and I can just torture people and murder and rape and whatever.
Well, he's even like, put off by it a little bit first, too, so you kind of...
I guess at very first.
Very first.
You know? But, yeah, so let's just dig into it. We'll get there when we get there. But, yeah, so... like we said, written by Mark Millar. It's 6 issues long, so pretty fast. It's also a very fast read. I mean... I read it in maybe like 45 minutes or something.
Yeah, it's super action packed. So
yeah, a lot of it's just action going all over the place. But yeah, this book starts pulling no punches. The first issue called "Bring on the Bad Guys," and it starts with the lead character, his roommate or his best friend is fucking his girlfriend, and he's like, "Hey, that's my best friend fucking my girlfriend." You know, like, so he knows that they're having sex, that they're together, go behind his back or whatever, and they're doing this. So he's not okay with it, but it's kind of like, this really reminded me, because they also go into his, like, work life and everything. It really, really felt like maybe Mark Millar read Fight Club. And it was like, what if I made a supervillain movie about this or something? Because, like, literally, he's like, they're having sex on, or she's, like, having an orgasm on my IKEA furniture or whatever right now, and then I'm at work and my shitty boss is, you know, telling me to staple stuff again or whatever, and like just shit like that. Like they go out of their way to kind of make it feel like Fight Club, and this is where I was saying it's super edgelordy. Like, it definitely feels like something. It actually feels a little too old. If this is from 2004, 2003, it was probably coming out over those 2 years. It feels too edgelordy for me, because like Fight Club came out in 98 or something, right? Or like 97?
Yeah, I think so.
So like, I mean, that's so much before this. And that's the movie, not the book. So I think the book came out in the earlier 90s. So if, you know, that has a lot of the same themes. It's just about real people, not super villains or whatever. So, but they definitely have this guy who they just show his shitty life. He's like, I fucking hate these happy people with their stupid fucking smiley faces. And then like the people at work are like, hey, how's it going? We should also say his name is Wesley, right?
Yeah, Wesley Gibson.
Yeah, Wesley Gibson. So Wesley is like,
he also like his work is like a dead end job. It's like
it's a cubicle,
an autoimmune periodical.
Yes, yeah, there you go. Yes.
The number 3 in the country or something too.
Perfect.
Like,
yeah, he's the third autoimmune periodical in the country. So
all right.
Yeah, and then like he's saying, like, these stupid people with their fucking happy faces, I hate them all. And there's like a guy, an old man that's on the stoop, and he's like, cheer up, Wesley, it'll get better or whatever. Like, good things might happen. You never know. And he's like, fuck you, old man. And then like, so yeah, he's sick of his life. He's gone nowhere. Then like we cut to this weird scene where there's like an old man who looks like he's about to have sex with 2 guys or something. There's a videotape set up.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, don't worry, guys. I'm not gay. I'd like to switch it up every year. So like 1 year I'm gay, 1 year I'm not gay. And it kind of like makes the sex with the ladies better or whatever. Like, it makes you want it if you can't, you know, you haven't had it for a while kind of thing. And he's like, and don't worry, I'm just gonna watch you guys. So like, you just go for it. And basically, we find out that this is the father of Wesley Gibson.
Yeah, it's Mr. Gibson.
They just call him Mr. Gibson, and he is like a top assassin supervillain or whatever. So like, when we say top assassin, think Deathstroke or something. Like, he is killing people left and right, no problem. You know.
Or Bullseye too, like always hits.
Exactly. Supernaturally good at killing people. Yeah, Bullseye's more maybe what they're going for, but also like all those supervillains in this have very much equal parts that you could totally tell who they're supposed to be.
Oh yeah,
in this book. So we'll point them out as we do. But so basically, he's just standing there, and then you see like the scope X over his face, and then someone says like, or one of the guys is on the bed is like, "Hey, what are those dots on your face?" He's like, "What?" And then he's able to jump out of the way while all these bullets shoot through the two gay guys on the bed that are about to have sex, and they die. But he's fast enough to get away, from the bullets.
Yeah.
And then he goes on chases.
I love this. Yeah, he grabs some guns out of a drawer and then jumps out the window and starts chasing after.
Yeah, he's like, "You motherfucker!" And this is what they use a lot of colorful language.
Yeah, there's a lot of cursing.
When I said colorful, they use a lot of slurs for gay people that were not allowed anymore. And
Yes.
and yeah, but once again, these are the bad guys, so I guess that's why it's supposed to be.
Yeah, like it fits for who the characters are. I mean, you definitely couldn't this couldn't be made.
Yeah, you wouldn't say this in a movie, probably now.
Oh yeah,
but yeah, if Wanted was made now, and I don't think they said it in the movie anyway, but yeah, like it wouldn't fly now. So anyway, the old man. I mean, this guy is like, I don't know, 65.
Yeah, he looks like he's in
his
his 60s
yeah.
at least.
And so he jumps out the window, and he's able to I don't know if it's his boots or something. I guess he's got anti-gravity boots on, is what they kind of mentioned that his son gets later on.
Yeah.
But he's like walking on the side of the wall like Spider-Man or some shit on the outside of the building, chasing these people. And he goes up to them. He's like, "You think you can kill me? I'm the fucking best assassin ever." They're like, "No, man, we were just supposed to be here for the setup." And he's like, "Set up," and then his face gets blown up by a bullet. And it was one of the things where like they do this in the comic, right? And I guess technically we don't see his face because it's getting blown up. But then and we're kind of spoiling the end here. In the end, they say he didn't die. But we see him get shot.
This panel looks like he dies.
Yeah, we see his face get blown up. So I was kind of like, I don't know if that's like a fake, like not. It's a cheap, like a. If you see someone in a TV show die on screen and then they're come back, it was just
Later.
a puppet or something, or it was all fake. But we saw him get killed, so that doesn't count. Like I don't know how they kind of were able. Like why they think that works as well as it does, or as well as they think it does. So I don't know. To me, it didn't work when I realized
when they show especially when they show like a fairly significant.
If they didn't show
close-up.
this panel, if they just showed, if you heard shot, and it's just like the word bang, or something,
and then the body,
then
on the
body
ground.
down, then I would be like, okay.
But there's literally a panel of like his face is kind of blurred out, but there's all this blood.
Yeah, like
exploding
brain
out.
matter, and yeah. So unless he's wearing a squib on his face filled with brain matter and stuff, and it explodes out of his face, I think it's kind of a shitty, cheap ending that they did at the end of this, which we'll talk about at the end. But yeah, so just
We spoiled it all. We're done. We don't have to do anymore.
that's the end of the episode. But yeah, so I wanted to mention that because I did remember that this happened. I'm like, there's no fucking way that I know that I saw that panel. And then I went back. I'm like, yeah, they did. So I'm like, I got to bring this up. Also, couple things about the art in this. So there's some characters. All the characters in this book, basically all the main characters, are referencing actual human beings in our world.
Yeah, they do look fairly similar. At least a
this
few.
dad looks at times. He looks kind of the least. He's like the least well traced, I guess, or whatever you'd say. But like, he looks like Tommy Lee Jones in a lot of panels, or someone like that.
Pardon me. I think I could see how that was referenced, but I don't. I think he's the farthest off for sure. Like we'll just say Wesley.
Wesley
looks
is
like
Eminem.
Like,
Wesley is Marshall
very much.
Mathers.
Like he's definitely blonde, and it's very much the short,
He's got
tight
the
blonde.
earring.
to the
There's a
side of
couple
his head.
panels where it's like you literally just took his face and copied, traced it or whatever in this panel or whatever. And also there's another character coming up named Fox, and she is obviously Halle Berry.
Like swordfish.
Level like Catwoman.
Catwoman, yeah, like that era, yeah.
That era, Monsters Ball.
Yeah.
Not Monster. That's a different movie. But yeah, so that was a thing in this that really also kind of took me out of it and put a timestamp on it. I'm like, they should never fucking do that. unless it's like a model you don't know. But actors and, you know,
Something you see a bunch.
people that you know from that time, like it'd be like if they put Britney Spears in this, I'm like, but like it wasn't her. It was like, oh, this is just some super bad guy or whatever. And you're like, no, that's Britney Spears. Like, it's just weird that they would do that. So anyway, that took me out of it a little bit. And also, J.G. Jones is a really good artist, so I don't know why he would trace, unless it was in the script, like, looks like Eminem, looks like Halle Berry or something, you know. So I don't know why they did that, but they chose to do that, and it really took me out of it for a while. I had to get, and then like I said, I'd be okay with it, and then some panels would be so photo referenced that I was like, oh, this is just terrible. Like, why are you referencing this kind of thing? So whatever, that took me out of it, but
for the most part, the art in general,
the art is great,
really good.
I mean, the art is great, other than the photo reference faces or whatever. So, but yeah. So then, anyway, that guy dies. We don't really know who he is, except that he was this old dude. Then we find out there's like a funeral for him. There's two people talking. There's a dude named the Sucker, who comes into play later on, which is why I'm bringing up his name. And then there's another guy that they call the Imp, who's supposed to be like Mr. Mixoplickalick, from from Superman or whatever. And yeah, he's just like he's supposed to be like some weird magical imp. And so that's where we find out, oh, this guy was some kind of super powered person, and then it ends up being super villain, we find out. So all of these people at the funeral are super villains. We meet like the kind of big bad in this, who also comes to pay his respects. His name is
Mr. Rictus.
Mr. Rictus. And they're like, do you think it was Mr. Rictus who killed him? And
like, who else would it be?
Yeah, who else could it be? You know, we don't know. You know, who could kill the greatest hitman in the world? You know, kind of thing. So that's the setup for the mystery of this whole comic is who killed him?
Who done it?
Who done it? And so who done did that?
Who done that thing that did get done?
So yeah, and then we cut back to, you know, the Marshall Mathers kid, Wesley.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, like, you know, I just hate my fucking day, my life, all this stuff. And then he gets like approached by this woman who looks like Halle Berry, and she's like, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" And she's like, "We have an appointment." He's like, "What are you talking about?" He's at his deli where he's like getting his lunch or whatever, and she's like, "No, like you need to come with me." And he's like, "What?" And then she's like, "I'm not coming with you." And she's like, "No, you're coming with me." And then she shoots everybody and kills everybody in the diner.
Yeah, she takes out guns and just starts firing everywhere.
Yeah, and just murders everybody. He's like, Jesus Christ. She's like, look, nothing's happening. Obviously, the police aren't showing up yet or anything.
So you're
like,
coming with me.
Get in the fucking car with me. You have a business appointment. So then she kind of explains to him what's going on. That basically his life, you know, his father left him when he was a kid. He didn't ever know his dad, but apparently his dad was that old guy that got assassinated.
Yep, he was some head of a super secret, or like one of the top people of the super secret for like fraternity.
Yeah, they call them for the fraternity. They're basically the Justice or the Doom. What's it called? League of Doom or whatever. I was going to say the Justice League of Doom, but that's different.
Yeah, and they have like a little pin.
Legion of Doom.
Legion of Doom. Meanwhile, at the Legion of Doom.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
But yeah, so she takes him to like the secret lair of this guy who's like the scientist or whatever, and we get like basically a rundown of who the dad was. He was like a top assassin for this scientist, and we find out that the scientist guy is like, basically he's like Lex Luthor or something, right? Like he creates all the big bad weapons and shit for all the super powered people, all the villains, and it turns out the villains killed all the superpowers off, all the heroes off
in 1986.
86, so the year we were born, or the year I was born.
You were born.
I forgot John is a little younger than I am, so. But yeah, so that's like they killed all the superpowered heroes. They took over. Then they divided the Earth into, I guess, 7 pieces because they make it seem like there's 7 heads or whatever. Or I don't know if it's 5 or 7.
I think it started out at 7. And there's only 5 is what they go to.
Oh, okay.
The meeting is 5.
Okay, so there's 7, I guess, for each continent. There's like a head of the African continent, head of a North American, who I guess the scientist.
And they basically rule in secret. Like basically like all government and like police and all that know about them. Like they have to show a little pin or a license plate or something. And like they're covered. But society as a whole,
so like real.
Yeah.
So like our real world.
Our real world, but society as a whole doesn't like know that there are super villains. Like basically all of the.
Do you think Epstein was a super villain?
All
Until he crossed the fraternity.
Wow. So so basically they wiped they did their great plan with it was that they banned it all together. They're like, well, the heroes can do it while we do it, and they band together, and they were able to actually take care of them.
And then they secretly divided the world and rule it now.
But they also wiped like almost all knowledge of the heroes.
Right, they did they said they used all the magic they could, at that point and erase basically everyone's memory of superhero people. So that way they can live in secret. No one, and like regular people don't remember them, although obviously the government people know the fraternity is actually in charge of things. Because like when she killed everybody in the diner, they're not coming after her at all for that. There's no like, oh, the murders happened, and the police showed up and swept it under the rug or whatever.
Yeah.
So
like, oh man, who killed all these people?
Yeah.
Guess we'll never know.
Yeah, and then the video she like flashes her badge or whatever. So like we get it. So that's like the setup. We find the setup, and then they're like, hey, you should join us. Your dad was one of these people. He left you when you were, a kid. We don't know why exactly. But
and we should say her name is the Fox, and
yes.
she actually was really close with.
Really close, meaning she fucked his dad a lot.
Well, I was going to get to that, but I was going to get to that at a more opportune time.
Oh, okay.
When things happen.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Either way. So yeah, the fox and the dad were shacking up.
Yeah.
Not like in a relationship, they say, but more like just hey, let's fuck buddies kind of way or something.
But like close enough, like
yeah, they had a relationship like a friendship, but it was like friends with benefits,
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah. So, and like basically the dad, Wesley's dad, Mr. Gibson, was the personal bodyguard of the scientist. What's his actual name? I'm just calling him the scientist. Oh, Professor Solomon Seltzer.
Seltzer, yeah.
Seltzer. We're just going to call him the scientist or professor. We'll call him professor in this.
Perfect.
So the professor is, the Lex Luthor of these bad guys, basically, the fraternity. And, he breaks us all down and then is like, you're going to be my new assistant or my new bodyguard.
Yeah, and he's like, what are you talking about?
Like, I'm not coordinated. I've never even shot a gun or anything.
Yeah, that's the one thing they really stress is that, like he's never been in a fight. He's never.
And in fact, they reveal later on, like his mom was like, you're not allowed to fight. Like he got beat up in school or whatever with friends. And she's like, it's good that you never threw a punch or anything.
Yeah.
So they were saying like almost it was kind of like subconsciously her being like, don't do that because she knew what he really was. But basically, he got his dad's superpowers because she's like, Fox is like, shoot. What did she say? Like,
shoot the wings off a fly.
Yeah, there's 7 flies in this room. Shoot the flies. He's like, what are you talking about? She's like, come on, do it, or I'm going to shoot you in the head. 1, 2, and right before she could say 3, he shoots the 7 flies, all their wings off. So then they're on the ground like, and then he's like, how did I do that or whatever? And it's like, turns out his superpower is he can, expert marksman or whatever,
Yep.
And so that's like the end of that issue. Then we get the issue, which is like this is like the falling down. If you've seen that movie, Falling Down, it's like falling down, but if he was a supervillain. So the issue's called "Fuck You," which I thought was funny and very edgelordy or whatever, and basically he's just getting madder and madder now that he knows who he is, what he can do. He's like still living with his girlfriend, who's fucking his best friend, and he hates his job. So basically. He goes to his job and gets a call from Fox, and she's like, "Hey, why don't you quit?
Just do it now. Let's get this thing going.
Why don't you just fuck all this?" Like, kind of, it was like a Morpheus in the Matrix moment where he's like, "Stand up," and
yeah.
But she's just like, "Why don't you stand up and tell everybody to go fuck yourself?" So he does it. He's like, "I can't believe I'm actually going to do this," and he stands up and he's like, "Fuck you, you fucking assholes!" And then everybody in the office is like, "What?" And then like, then he runs out. Then like the training begins. Like it's his first day training, and also I should also say, besides him being like expert marksman or whatever, he also got his dad's money, so he doesn't need to work anymore. He's like a millionaire. So that was also something important because he could quit his job and quit everything. And she's like, "Why do you give a fuck about any of this shit? Fuck him." And so she does first day of training where he's like shooting. They actually have him on the range and he's shooting dead bodies, like
Yeah, they're like
corpses.
I guess they get corpses and they're like, that's okay, they were already dead. Don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
don't worry about it. It's fine. But like, yeah, he's shooting corpses, and I guess to just show like what they can do or something, like or like where you could hit people or whatever. But yeah, like,
and then he gets days of being worked over. They strap him to a chair. He's like, you're gonna learn how to take punches. And then they bring in this big guy, and they just start welling at him, and it's like several days of this.
Yes, and then he like stabs that. He's able to break out and stabs that dude through the head. So it's like the first time he kills someone. And then they're like, "How do you feel?" He's like, "How do I feel? I feel like I just fucked Marilyn Monroe without a condom," because he's like super happy
because he's edgy.
That guy. Yeah, because he's it's edgy. He's an edgy guy.
There's some lines like that.
The first time I read that, I thought it was Marilyn Manson, which is different.
I mean, it could fit too probably at some point, but
yeah, but yeah, basically they're like, "You killed your first human," So he kind of crosses that line. Then he basically just goes on a crazy killing / raping spree.
Yeah, he goes after all the people who like there were guys that made fun of him, so he went and
like in high school. Stuff.
And then and like people, there were some like he said some like thugs or on the way to work or whatever.
Well, he says I even raped an A-list celebrity. Can you believe it?
Yeah,
for no reason.
It
wasn't
that's crazy.
So he just says like, I don't know. It's just like super fucked up. He instantly takes to killing, raping, murdering, all that stuff. No problem. Once he finds out he can do it. Without consequences, I think that's the point. This is kind of like hey, if you didn't have consequences, would you murder people? And I would say most people would say no, because I think people are mostly good. But apparently Mark Miller's version of people is yes, they would. If there was no consequences in society, everybody would just murder everybody.
Just be murder,
or rape everybody or whatever. Like the only thing stopping Mark Miller from murdering or raping people is that he would get prison time or something. So I don't know. To me, that's a little far fetched, but
yeah, I think if society is gonna go on, like if people are gonna not murder people just in the street every day.
What do you mean?
I'm just like the morality of it.
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying like society would go on if the government collapsed, we would still figure out a way not to murder / rape people. So yeah, it's just interesting because this is where like it takes its turn, right? You are on Wesley's side until this page basically, and every now and then you still are on his side where like he kind of shows more human emotions, and that's only because they got us on his side at the beginning, with the whole like setup and everything. So, but yeah, I mean, this is pretty a harsh scene where you're like, wow, they're gonna go this far. So that's pretty crazy. And yeah, he just shows up to everybody and kills them or rapes them or murders them. And then he even like
my favorite thing is going to break up with his girlfriend.
Yeah, he breaks up with his girlfriend. Just like get the fuck out of here. You've been fucking my best friend. She's like, what were you talking about? He's like, don't lie. You fucking did it. And then like, she's like, how do you know? He's like, because I tortured the fuck and I killed him and cut him into pieces and threw him in a dumpster or whatever. And she thought he was being edgy, but apparently he actually did that because later on, she's on the news saying he did it or whatever. So. Then like he walks out of his apartment and the old man sees him. That's always like, cheer up, Bucky, cheer up, buddy. And he's like, he says, cheer up, Wesley, don't worry about it. And then he shoots the old man in the head. That old man was just saying, cheer up.
Yeah. Well, I don't like that.
Annoyingly. And then he just says, fuck everybody. So this is the fuck everybody.
At least he didn't shoot the dog.
Yeah. Then he does like
that would have been over the line for me.
That is where I draw the line.
That is where I draw the line.
A dog.
Group people, but do not touch that pooch.
Yes. And so, when we read Watchmen, I will tell a story about someone that said that about Rorschach or whatever. I thought that was funny. But one day we will read Watchmen.
Is it because of the dog scene?
Yes.
Okay.
But anyway, back to this.
Yeah.
So yeah, then he does like his whole like ceremony where he's inducted into the fraternity of brotherhood or whatever, and he just kind of I think he meets everybody else.
And there's like the doll maker. Oh, the Mr. Richter shows up, and he's like, hey, you, me, and your dad. He's so creepy looking.
He's basically supposed to be the Joker. That's why he's got that smile, I think.
The big grin. Okay.
Yeah.
He looks like a lizard Joker man.
Well, they show basically like if the Joker fell into napalm instead of acid or whatever, so his skin is just super, like burned looking.
Okay.
And then like so it's super taut, so it pulls back his skin on his face. So
that
makes
makes
like
sense.
A smile or whatever. And so he's Wesley's all super pissed off because Richter showed up, and he thinks that from what the gossip was that Richter killed his dad, even though he didn't know his dad. I guess he's still like, you killed my dad, and so that's kind of like where he thinks this is going. Yeah, and that's like we get introduced to more people, like you said, the toy maker. The toy maker is actually a cool character. I'm sorry, the doll maker. I'm sorry. The real character is named the toy maker. This is the doll maker. How silly of me to get them confused. But yeah, so like then he gets like the whole breakdown of what happened to the heroes. Like we said, 1986, they all got beat and killed everybody. We also get introduced, like in the next issue, we get introduced to the Bizarro. There's a Bizarro character which I thought was funny, named Fuckwit. They call him, and he's just Bizarro. You still have to say things backwards.
Yeah, you have to talk to him backwards to understand. Or it would be like, I want to go to the grocery store. Don't take me to the grocery store.
Yeah.
You tell him.
Which I appreciated more. I was like, that's funnier than having to actually figure out how to
actually say it backwards. Yeah. Oh my god!
Because god, I hate that shit. And so that was funny. That they had him, but he's like the janitor of this place.
Yeah, he's like the janitor and the driver for the professor.
Yeah, but basically he's like the last superhero or whatever. He's the last remnants of the superhero that's left or whatever. So, but they keep him around to be like, huh, you idiot. Go pick up the shit. The toilet's clogged again. Bring a mop.
Don't clean that toilet.
Bring a mop and a plunger.
Don't bring a mop and a plunger.
Yeah, don't bring a mop and a plunger. There you go. Yeah. Then like we start off the next issue, and the son now is top assassin guy or whatever, and he's on a mission with Fox. They're on basically Earth 2. But I can't remember what they call it, but it's like, Parallel 2 is what they call it.
Yeah, we find out that there are parallel universes in this too. Yeah,
just like DC. There's like they're on Earth 2 basically, and they're like fighting the older versions, which is like Earth 2 of the Justice League or whatever, the heroes that they killed on their Earth, which is like the Justice Society basically. Yeah. And
at this point they also make mention like he's been doing this for 3 months now, so he's
it's been 3
basically
months.
All trained up.
Yeah. And so he's killing heroes, no problem. They're dying as he's like shooting them in the face. I wonder what he's using for bullets and shit, because he's shooting them in the face and they're actually dying and stuff. So I'm like, Jesus. But they're able to escape, and they were on a mission to steal something. And then when you find out what that thing is, the professor's like, Did you get it? And they're like, yeah, we got it. And they're like, well, finally, that kryptonite condom I wanted to give one of my old friends for the upcoming gala or whatever, like as a present. So all it was
like, it's basically just like hey, remember the old days when we killed those guys? Here's something to remember that.
and a reference to Kevin Smith. Because there's actually 2 references to kind of Kevin Smith stuff in this book. But they talk about, they have a kryptonite condom in this, and we'll find this later on in this issue, there's a shit monster named Shithead, I believe, who's like Clayface, but with shit.
Yeah, just like in a...
and he actually looks like Clayface and everything.
Yeah, what's the Dogma?
Yeah, but he's like, it's like Dogma where there's the poop monster, but this is Clayface poop monster, basically.
Yeah, because he can change his body shape into all different levels of poop, from constipation to diarrhea, he says.
Yes, which is disgusting. But, so this is where, we get introduced to more into the doll man.
Yeah,
we see he's got a family. He's got dolls.
But it's cool because he tells him because he takes Wesley back and he's like, "Hey, don't say ixnay on the supervillain. Say like my family doesn't know." He's like, "How do you live a normal life like?"
Yeah, he's like, I don't know. I couldn't do that to her. What am I supposed to tell her? Like, all those superheroes, we killed them or whatever. It would break her heart. So, then we cut to like what this was all about with this kryptonite condom and everything. We cut to China. Turns out all the heads of everything are getting together. So I guess they do their yearly vote on things or whatever. Like, so this is one thing that is kind of interesting. the super villains, they won, and instead of creating like a despotic Earth, like say Old Man Logan or something,
Yeah, they rule with iron fists or whatever.
yeah, they actually just rule behind the scenes, kind of like the mob or something. So, or like our government now, and so, like the CIA and all those.
What are you talking about?
The shadow government that rules us. We just don't know about that. The reptilians. And so, yeah, basically they just run everything. So everything runs smoothly for everybody else. All of us normies, we're just going to work and we don't notice these people or anything.
Going to the dentist, just living our life.
All that happens is these guys get a spiff in the background, so they're making cash on everything extra, from the governments or whatever. So, yeah, like I guess they do their yearly vote or something where they all meet up and then they're voting on. This is weird. It's kind of like a Comic-Con they go to, like where everybody, all the superhero or all those supervillains are dressed up in their costumes, and all of them look fucking stupid and ridiculous.
Oh yeah, and like you said, this is kind of one of the things. Like some of them look kind of familiar. Like that one that looks like Scott Steiner, the wrestler. Like it looks exactly like a '90s wrestler.
Okay,
well, like exactly.
Very true. Yeah, I mean, it probably is, but I don't know anything about wrestling, so I'll just have to take your word for it.
Okay.
But yeah, this is where we see Poop Monster or Shithead or whatever, and so they say he's made of the poops of Hitler and Ed Gein and Jeffrey Dahmer. So he's made up of the shits of the evilest people in the world. And so I thought that was a funny character, even though it is like a bit rip-off of Kevin Smith. And then another one we see is a dude that looks like Steve Buscemi.
I was going to say, he looks like Steve Buscemi.
He looks like Steve Buscemi, but apparently he's called, what's his name? Two Dicks or something.
Two Dicks.
He's called Two Dicks, and he's basically got a giant dick that actually thinks.
One of them has one of them is sentient and talks.
Yes. Does he actually have two dicks, or he just have a big dick and it talks?
Oh, well, we didn't see it exactly, so I don't know.
Well, from what I understood, he
is a dick, and then
yes, and he's got a dick that is the talking thing.
Okay, so that made me.
It's kind of like the ventriloquist from Batman, but instead of a dummy, it's a wiener.
It's a wiener.
Okay. And so, yeah, basically, we get introduced to him, and you don't really. I mean, we don't know exactly what's. They're just setting up. We're getting introduced to these people that play a plot. Play in the plot later. So. But we get like we see all the heads of the different areas, the evil villains that are like the heads of everything. So there's an Asian one, there's a African one, there's and Solomon is the name of the African one. He's basically Black Adam because he's like they say he's so old and everything. So he's been around for like since the Egyptians or whatever, So and then like what's the Emperor they call him? He's the Chinese. I guess I don't know if he's a Chinese or if he's just Asian, but they're like. He's in China, so I'm assuming he's...
Well, yeah, because they use very caricature language with it later. So
yes, everybody's super racist to everybody in this, so I'm not going to say words that they say.
Yeah, there's like a fascist-y character, too, kind of remind me...
His name's The Future.
He kind of made me think of like Hellraiser a little without the pins.
Yeah, he definitely has like a Hellraiser suit on, but then he's just got like swastikas and SS tattooed on his head, so you know his bald head.
So you know.
So you know what he stands for. But yeah, so there's just like... these five guys meet up with the professor and they vote on, should we take this to the next level and become despotic and whatnot, or should we just keep it low key like we've been doing? And basically the professor has set it up where him and Solomon and the Emperor always vote against the Future and Mr. Richter, who Mr. Richter wants the despotic world or whatever, wants to rule and
definitely wants
cause chaos and craziness. And the professor and Solomon and the Emperor are like, why don't we just keep it the way it is? We're all doing well. We're all making money, whatever. But basically everybody's bored. Like that's where it's become like the supervillains are like, I have a 401k. I'm a supervillain. I shouldn't have a 401k, like we got to throw some chaos into this shit. It's no fun if they clean it up afterwards. I want to chase from someone, or I want to run away, or I want to feel the exhilaration of Batman being behind me, or whatever. Like that kind of thing. So that's what they're arguing about. But they end up voting because the professor brings a kryptonite condom and gave it to the Emperor as a gift, being like, "Remember when we were kids and this happened, and we almost got Superman with to like that girl that he was in love with to put it on him, and we almost got him that one time." And he's like, "Oh yes, I remember." And then that like made the Emperor have think twice, and was like, "No, I'm gonna go with the professor for old time's sake."
But there was a fake out. There was a little bit of like, what is it gonna?
And the Future and Richter were very much
Rictus.
like, Rictus. Sorry, we're like Richter, the Richter scale. But yeah, Rictus. We're like, what? You said you were going to vote on our side. He's like, sorry, I just had a change of heart or whatever. So basically, this is the setup for the rest of the book, because basically Rictus and the Future are now pissed that the other three, went against them when they were supposed to win this time, because they thought they had the Emperor on their side. And so they set up a way to wipe out all the professor's people, or whatever, like his whole team. So the professor comes back from China. He's with Wesley. They're in a car, and he's like, "Hey, Wesley, why don't you go have some fun tonight? I'm fine on my own." Then,
very much nothing bad is going to happen.
Yeah, I was like, why would you think you're fine on your own right now? You're not back at your lair or whatever, your lab. And so Wesley's like, "You sure?" He's like, "Yeah, I got the driver here. He's fine." It's like, okay. And the driver is supposed to be fuckwit.
Yeah.
So that's why he's like, "Oh, yeah, we're good. Don't worry about it."
And he's like, "Don't drive me home."
And they give it away because there's a bunch of flies that they show flying around in the car. But basically, it's shithead has formed into the likeness of fuckwit.
That's something smelled off in this car.
Yeah, and they capture fuckwit as well. So, I'm like, wouldn't you smell the guy that's made of shit?
Yeah, I was like, so maybe he can fool people with a figure, but I feel like you would always smell him.
Yeah, I would imagine. But anyway, this is like the worst death you could ever imagine. But like, he's like, "Fuckwit, please drive me to the thing." He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Please don't drive me to the strip club," or whatever the fuck he was going. And then the guy's like, "Fuck you, you old fart." And then he turns around, turns into a poo monster, but also just like fills the car with shit.
Yes.
It's a limousine too, so
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
He's saying it's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's liquidy.
And yeah, and then the bad guy, the shithead, comes out of the door and he's like, "Death by dysentery," which is a terrible way to go. And probably the worst thing you could ever do. But so this is where we see, the reveal that, oh man, Dr. Rictus has, betrayed everybody.
Yeah, like he's gonna use this team of these couple people, and they're gonna take out the rest of them.
Yeah, and so,
bum, bum, bum.
And so we get the next issue starts, and this is like we said. Now Rictus is after everybody. We see him and Fox in bed. He's recounting what he did after he left the van or the limousine. He's like, "I went to a police station and I just shot everybody in it and murdered them. And then there was one lady left, and she's like, 'Did you rape her?' I was like, wow, what a question to ask.
Did you rape her?" He's like, "Well, I thought about it, but I actually broke down and cried."
Yeah. He's like, it doesn't mean anything anymore. If you can just walk in and kill people, like, what's the point?
And this is where I was going to bring up, because they're both in bed and they're obviously sleeping together now.
Yeah.
So that's where I was like, wait a minute.
Him and his dad are Eskimo brothers.
I was like, wasn't she sleeping with his dad? Like, yeah. Wait a minute.
They're both Eskimo brothers.
So I've never heard that before. That sounds...
You've never heard that term?
No, that sounds like a inappropriate term.
No, it's not. What are you talking about?
Perfect for this comic?
All it means... Yeah, appropriate for this comic for sure, but all it means is that you have slept with someone that someone else has slept with.
I don't see how that fits together, but okay.
Well, for instance, I'm trying to think of a comic or whatever. Some character, two characters.
No, I understand that.
Oh, you get the idea.
I get the idea. What I'm saying is I don't get the Eskimo reference in there.
I don't know what that's either. That's
just an old term for it. That's right.
No. There are Eskimos, John.
Yes, I understand that, but what I'm saying is that just sounds like it's something that would be in this book. Like, it sounds like it doesn't fit.
It does, but that's what they call it. Okay, I'm not the one who made the term up, John. All right.
I don't know. I'm not saying
For all I know, the Eskimos made up that term for stuff that they do. All right.
Yeah, I'm not saying. Look, I'm saying there's a lot of weird, crazy things out there. There's something called the donkey punch, and like I'm sure donkeys didn't.
Donkeys that's not real, John.
But donkeys didn't come up with it.
Eskimo Brothers is very real. Right? Okay. Anyway, back to the comic. So he's telling this story where he like breaks down crying because it's just too easy to murder people, and I don't have the fun I used to have. And he even like asks her, because another rumor about who killed his dad is that she did, because she thought she was going to get that money, that sweet money, because they were fuck buddies, but it turns out he did. And so she's like, "No, I didn't kill your dad." He's like, "I believe you," because they're about to have sex again. And she looks like Halle Berry. So Halle Berry from 2004 too.
Yes.
So
if you promise me you never die, I'd have sex with you right now.
I will never
never die.
That's basically what happened. So then we cut to the Dr. Rictus's lair or whatever, and we see what they're doing with Fuckwit.
Yeah.
So what they're doing with Fuckwit is they got the guy named Sucker from the very beginning that I mentioned, who's at the funeral for Wesley's dad.
It's like a double cross kind of.
It's a double cross. He was on their side. He was on the professor's side, but it turns out he's double cross. And what he is he's basically rogue. I'll say he's got the power of rogue where he can absorb.
The Sucker, he sucks out the powers. And only powers.
He sucks out powers. And so, but yeah, he's able to suck the powers out of Fuckwit, because Fuckwit, while he is, Bizarro, he still has the powers of Superman, basically. And he never uses them, though, because he's too much of a dullard to use them.
Yeah. The only thing with the Sucker's powers is that he draws them out, but he can only use them for a certain amount of time.
For 24 hours, they say. So he uses those powers and goes on a killing spree along with the Future to go kill people. And this is where he actually kills his old buddy, the Imp, which I thought was sad or whatever. It was a moment where the Imp's like, I need your help, bud. And he's like, here, and he just like rips him in half.
Yeah. Just the entrails everywhere.
Yeah, I was like,
crazy.
Jesus, that was your friend, man. And
lots of guts and blood.
Yeah, and then this is like a really fucked up part, but this is where Two Dicks, they're like, hey, this is where you get to have some fun, buddy. And they're back at the lair with Fuckwit now having been drained. And they're like, here's a crowbar. And they just have him beat Fuckwit to death now that he doesn't have any powers.
Basically, yeah.
And this is where you get to actually see his dick talk to him. But yeah, so Two Dicks is there, and he's like his dick says, the guy's like, here, you want to kill him? And the dick says, don't mind if I do, man. Just give me that crowbar to the bookworm, when he's talking about the upper half of him. And he's like, and we'll see what damage we can do to this poor fuck. And then the upper half of Two Dicks is like, Johnny, please don't make me do this. He's like, you shut your goddamn mouth. Like, you do what the dick says. So it's a funny character. It's very weird.
It's ridiculous.
And then he proceeds to beat Fuckwit to death with a crowbar, which is sad. And then here's another sad moment I felt for, because we met his family, but they show up at the doll maker's house. And he seems like he's prepared for it. He's ready for the the inevitable, I guess he was thinking, because maybe he's smart and he planned for it. But he's like, don't worry, guys. All I ask is that you leave my face intact for my kids and wife. They're pretty sensitive and they don't know about any of this. And and they're like, well, your kids and wife. I mean, we already
killed them. And
we already murdered / They make it seem like they did more than kill them. By the way,
at least kill them.
At least killed. I mean, it makes it seem like they raped the family as well. So
possibly. I mean, they are villains.
Yes.
In this
world. So obviously he's like, what? And then they, they're like, any last words? Because also they show pictures of them and they're all naked in the pictures. Why would they be naked?
Well,
anyway. And so they're like, any last words? And he's like, yeah. Get him, boys. And then all the dolls in his room, like, come to life and start attacking everybody.
Yeah.
And they're like, Jesus Christ. Like,
Where are all these little baby dolls?
yeah, creepy fucking doll. And they all look like the little baby from Pet Sematary.
Oh, yeah.
When he goes creepy evil and he's like cutting the old man's Achilles tendon or whatever. Yeah, he's dressed like that, like a little baby suit or whatever. All of them are dressed like that. So, but yeah, and so then they see, or we cut to Wesley after him and Fox have made love for the 8th time or whatever that night after she confirmed that she did not kill the dad, and then he's looking at the news and he sees his old girlfriend and she's like, it was horrible. He just showed up and took his stuff and said he killed Henry and threw him in a dumpster, and so all of a sudden everybody's looking for him because all of his crimes that he's done in the last 3 months are now attributed to him because he's no longer under the protection of the fraternity. He's been disavowed or whatever, and so he's like spy on the run now or whatever. So
well, I don't think it's disavowed. It's just because
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I mean, disavowed. Well, disavowed because the professor's no longer in charge of the fraternity because he's fucking dead. So if he's not in charge, then Rictus is, and Rictus is like he's no longer part of the fraternity.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, kill him. So then Fox and him are able to go crazy, shoot these guys that come into their house, and kill everybody, all the men, and then they even are able to kill Shithead.
Yeah, they're shooting him, and he's like, "What? You don't think I'm just gonna grow back?" And
and then he pulls out a bucket of bleach.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh yeah, well."
Yeah, and I don't know why bleach kills poo-poo, but
disinfects.
Is that what it is?
Bleach disinfects everything.
I don't know if it's just hydrochloric acid, I guess, but
it disinfects the poo.
But yeah, so they're able to disinfect him with Purox, they call it, and when the police show up at his house, they go to raid his house. It's just full. It's covered in blood and shit. They see like dead bodies, blood and shit all over the place. Well, we don't know what happened here, but it doesn't look good, which I thought was funny. I'm like, could you imagine being a cop that comes into that place?
You're like,
and you see shit all over the place with blood and everything. What happened in this house?
Yeah, how do you even retrace that crime scene?
Yes, but then we see Rictus actually gets into the professor's like secret lab or whatever, so he gets all the weapons finally that they've been wanting all the years. But now, obviously, Wesley and Fox are out and they're on the run, but they are also top assassins. And they're like, well, they're probably running away. And they're like, fuck no, we're not. They got their guns and they're ready to kill everybody. And so then basically that's what it is. Like they just go on a rampage, kind of killing one by one all these guys that killed everybody else. So we see the future is in New York, and it's been totally taken over by like the Poison Ivy-ish supervillain and him, and the future with his Nazi head gets it blown up from far away with a rifle.
Yep.
And then we see there's another like Venom kind of character who gets killed, and we see basically all these characters are being killed just from sniping away. Then we cut to Wesley with a rifle. He's about to shoot another one, and then we see the rifle barrel gets bent in half, and he's like, "Oh shit!" And then we see it's the sucker, and he's like, "Haha! I heard your shots from super far away because of this super hearing I've had. This is amazing! I can't believe this fucking idiot had all these powers the whole time and never used them." And then he's about to kill them, and then they're like, "Wait, don't your powers last 24 hours?" He's like, "Yeah, why?" He's like, and then he falls from the sky.
He's like, "That it ended 1 second ago."
Yeah, that 24 hours ended 1 second ago. I don't know how he knows that because he doesn't know when they. Once again, this is just a clever line added, but it doesn't make sense in the story.
Yeah, because how would he know
he was not in the room when he got his powers? So
wasn't in the room where it happened.
Yeah, he was fucking Fox, not knowing he was.
They got intel. Okay.
Deep intel.
Yeah.
He went deep.
The poo monster before he died told him.
There you go. He told him the exact minute and second because he said 1 second. It's been 1 second over.
Exactly. He did it exactly at.
Yes. And so then they just basically go on a rampage killing. They show up at the professor's old lab and they kill everybody and just start attacking everybody. Yeah. I mean that's like the basis for this. Like this, the end of this is just them getting kind of revenge for the professor and everybody that died, and they just do a good job killing everybody.
And this is like where we're saying like it's just a bunch of action, and then basically he gets to everybody, he kills everybody but Rictus, and then he and Rictus have like their standoff.
This is a cool way for this to end, but yeah, Rictus is like pretty good. You think you can? You think you have any more bullets left? And then he doesn't. So he pulls out a knife and he's like, "Oh, knife to a gunfight kind of thing," and then Richter shoots at him, and the bullet. He's able to smack it with his knife, so he's super fast reflexes or whatever. Yeah. He slaps the bullet with the knife, and it shoots into Rictus's larynx or whatever. And it doesn't kill him right away, so I'm assuming it just nicks his artery, but doesn't hit him in the larynx or the throat, because he can still talk. And he's like, "Who killed my dad? Was it you? Tell me the truth." And he's like, "Hey, Harvey Oswald." And he's like, "You motherfucker!" And he just
even to the end,
he just slits his throat, cuts his fucking throat. So that he dies and whatever, and then
the reveal,
the big reveal is
some guy in the corner is like, "Good job, kid."
Starts clapping, just soft clap in the back. Like, who the fuck is that? And then it's like, "Dad." So it turns out Dad's not dead. He is surely alive.
Bum, bum, bum. Nice.
And so,
yeah, and this I will agree. This panel. He looks like Tommy Lee Jones.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. In the beginning, he doesn't look like Tommy Lee Jones, but this is supposed to be him after he's like svelted up for 3 months because he was in hiding. He's like, I did a cleansing diet and everything. So he looks a lot like Tommy Lee Jones in this last section. But basically, you just find out that he staged his own death.
Yeah, this one was kind of like, it was an odd ending because he was like, basically, I've been there all along, son, in the shadows. Like, he's like, while you were sleeping, I pet your head, and like, I would like sprinkle little gifts here and there for you, and
yeah, like throughout your life, I've been there, and I never forgot about you, and I was so sad when I broke up with your mother because I had to, because she
the only woman I loved.
Yeah, and she wanted me to get out of the fraternity, but I couldn't, and
I just love killing.
Yeah, I just you got two loves: love killing, and love fucking. And,
I just love killing.
Yeah, and so that's basically you get the history of how they met and everything. But it's just that it's just like the dad having to choose between his son and family or the fraternity, and he chose the fraternity. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. We don't really find out why. I guess the Rictus thing happening, where Rictus takes over, just happened to occur at the same time that his dad faked it. I don't know. Do they say why?
No, I that's one of the things. Like the next part is the part that didn't quite get me, is that so like he's talking about all this, and then I guess like he had been doing this a while, and then then he gets like, so again I guess Rictus put out a hit on him or something to like try to. I assume it was take him out. You take out the professor's bodyguard and you kill. That's still part of that plan.
Yes, I guess, but
still, it was like okay, but we never really got like a full like reveal on that, or
yeah, and then like also like okay, so you knew this, but you just stayed in the background while the son. Yeah, I guess he wanted to see his son become his own man, like following his dad's footsteps. I guess that's what it is, because he does say, the day that I knew I was going to do this was the day that I went to visit you when you were like 9. And there was a fight in our backyard with like you and a neighborhood kid, and that neighborhood kid punched the shit out of you, and you didn't do anything except cry to your mom. And she was like, good job, you didn't hit back, and that's what matters. And he's like, my son was not going to be a pussy, and that's the whole like crux of it. Like, my son's not going to be a pussy, so I
got little flashes of my dad. Maybe I'm kidding.
So I'm sorry, John. John's having trauma from this.
No, just my dad was always like, "You got to be strong, man." And I was like, "Okay, Dad."
That's that toxic masculinity, John.
Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, this is probably the most toxic masculinity book ever, though, right? Because it's just about bad guys wanting their kids to be bad, being bad,
raping, and
murdering, all that shit. So, but yeah, so then like the weird thing is, one, he's like, if I was Wesley, I'd be mad. I'd be kind of like, you left me for this, and then also like, I don't know. It seemed like, okay, what's gonna happen? And then Wesley just is like, okay, and then he's more thrown off because the dad's like, now I've come to an end of my thing, and I need you to kill me in order to take over the mantle, kind of like finish finish the job.
He's like, what?
He's like, what? Is this a joke? He's like, no, you have to do it or else you don't get the money and you don't get to be part of the fraternity or whatever. And he's like, what the hell? And so, basically.
Pull the goddamn trigger.
Yeah, and he does. He pulls the trigger. He blows his dad's head off. And then.
I assume for real this time.
Yes. Yeah, I hope so. They don't show it in this panel. They could have. This would have been more of a way to show it at the beginning and then show the other one this time. But whatever. Then we see Fox is like, hey, all right, enough about your fucking dead father.
Yeah, you've more than that enough already.
We're done with this now. Why don't you come over now and we're done. And let's go back to the fraternity. He's like, I'm not interested.
I did like this. This is
fun. He's like, I'm not interested. She's like, what? He's like, I'm not interested in this shit anymore. You think this is how I want to live my life? You think this is how I want to die? Some dysfunctional mess that couldn't even stick around to raise his own son? And she's like, are you serious? Are you fucking with me? And he's like, of course I'm fucking with you, bitch. Yeah, it's just like, this is one of the scenes. There's a specific shot in this where he looks exactly like Eminem. I was like, oh my God. But yeah, basically he does this whole turn really quick of, bitch, I'm just fucking around. Let's go look what $10 million really looks like in real life or whatever, because now they have all the money and cash or whatever. So yeah, that's how it ends.
It's you recalled it earlier. Felt very like Rick and Morty-esque.
Yes, this ending felt like that specifically, where I could see Rick and Morty going back and forth, and he's like, you mean it, Rick? He's like, no, bitch, let's go get some money or whatever, just something like that. But yeah, and that's pretty much how it ends. And then he does this whole like, hey, reader. He breaks the fourth wall in the comic. He's like, is this
the Who is playing doodle doodle doodle?
Yeah. And he's like, hey, remember back at the beginning when I had a shitty life and a shitty everything and a shitty job? That's
like
you.
Your life, huh?
That's kind of like you fucking loser. Yeah. So he's like, here's you and here's your boss, and she's yelling at you, and like, why don't you go spend money on your shitty plasma TV? And why don't you go buy some comics, you fucking pussy, and spend your money on worthless stuff, because this is me fucking you in the ass. Like, that's how it ends, with Marshall Mathers yelling, this is my face while I'm fucking you in the ass. And that's it. That's the end of this
Teenage
book. Wasteland. Teenage Wasteland. We're all wasted. Yes,
that's what it felt like.
That is how it is. This weird fourth wall break at the end. It felt like it's like the antithesis of the New Frontier ending, where he's doing like the John F. Kennedy speech.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And it's like supposed to mean a lot or whatever. This is him just telling you your life fucking
your
sucks,
life sucks,
and my life's so much better, and fuck you, ha ha ha. I'm edgy. I'm an edgelord.
Man, that was so edgy.
Yeah, that was the edgiest comic that didn't age quite as well as it should have, or that he wanted probably. But I will say, it's only because things like The Boys and stuff have come out since then, and other stuff he's written like Kick-Ass and things like those are all edgy, kind of taking apart superheroes as well. So I think him and like Garth Ennis and other people have outdone him already, or after this. So it just doesn't seem as edgy as, or it seems like kind of just like, oh, this has been done a lot since then.
Maybe. And yeah, and like partially like you were saying, like, because things don't age as well, especially when there are a lot of terms and things that like are not colloquially and like commonly used anymore, because society moves forward with some things, and a lot of that in here was like, whoa. Yeah. So like every other page you were like, okay, he's got an edge to him. All right.
Yeah. All right. And then, like I said, a lot of it seems to be taken from like 90s, movies.
Yeah.
With like, Fight Club or one of, that kind of stuff. So a lot of it seemed unoriginal a little bit, and then also it seems unoriginal because we've already seen that 100 other times from other people, including himself, that already, maybe did it better than this comic did, kind of thing. So, but I did have fun reading this. On that, what would you give this one, John?
I enjoyed it. Like you said, the art is really good. There's definitely some times where it's like, oh, that looks like it pulls your mind out of this comic because it looks so much like somebody else or like another thing that you already know really well.
Yeah,
and that's kind of like a hard line that you try to steer away from.
Like I said, if you don't reference actors or something, people like that, because they're so well known. Like if you just reference models or something, I don't care, But it must have been. I can only imagine it was in the script. Like he should look like Marshall Mathers. She should look like I mean, I can't imagine unless there was a conversation where he just did it and drew it and was like, I drew it already. And like I ain't redrawn that page or whatever. So, but since this is their, it's an image book, so this is their property that they.
Well, now they own Eminem.
I mean, maybe they were like, hey, this might be a movie. Let's just cast it,
just in case. Yeah,
kind of like Ultimates did with Samuel Jackson.
Exactly. I remember because the first time he was like,
which is a Mark Miller book as well.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Ultimates. He wrote Ultimates.
That's right. So,
and that worked out well for him.
So yeah, Samuel Jackson's like, wait a minute.
This looks a lot like me.
Who said I could use my likeness?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, overall, like,
is Samuel Jackson a bitch? No. He's not.
Yeah. So the story itself, like, while it has like lots of colorful language, lots of just gratuitous violence and sex, and
shocking things.
Yeah, a lot of in your face stuff and a lot of edge. It still was a unique story as far as like the villain perspective of things, and I guess like I like that the society, no rules, and like I liked some of the way the characters went with that, and like I like some of the villains. They were I know they were takes on other ones, but they were fun. Like they're like fun knockoffs. It's like when you find that action figure of like Dark Vader, and you're like, okay, like his helmet's a little weird, and he has a purple lightsaber, and like
it's Mace Windu.
Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, so it's like, but like it's fun enough. Like I'm like, oh, I kind of want that too. So
Well, this is fun because specifically they're making fun of people that you know why. Like they're just making fun of it.
So on all that though, I don't know if I would read it again. This is not one I feel like I would pick up.
Yeah, I feel like me reading it 15 years later was about enough time in between because I forgot stuff. Although I like halfway through this, I was like, oh, I remember the end. I remember that the dad isn't dead.
Oh,
like I remembered that spoiler about issue 3, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what.
Well, for me, I don't know if I would read this one again. I was like, yeah, like it was fun. It was a good read, but I don't know if it would be one I would pick up again. I mean, yeah, if you're like, oh man, like. I haven't like checked out. Like I heard there's all these crazy comics. I haven't read like The Boys and like well, yeah, maybe check this one out if you want to.
This, you know what this one feels like to me? Sorry for interrupting you, but you know how like when you're in high school and you listen to something or you read something and it's like the edgiest thing you've ever heard.
This is the Sum 41 of comics.
Yes. Did I read? That is it. You're like, man, remember that song? What was their hit?
'Cause I'm in too deep.
Well, there's that one, but there's like
Fat Lip. That's the one.
Yeah, Fat Lip. Yeah, right. So you listen to Fat Lip, you're like, this is the hardest thing I've ever heard, and then you grow up a little bit more and you hear, Slayer or something.
Yeah.
You're like, oh well, fuck this shit. That was kind of like what this feels now. Like this would have been a movie I fully was on board with when I was like 16 or 7, like an angsty teenager.
Yes, this is the angst. Yes, that's perfect.
And then, now that you're like older, you're just like, like it's still fun to listen to maybe every now and then, but like it definitely doesn't have the same effect or impact or whatever that it did when you were a kid, Like this is I remember when I listened for the first time I heard Blink-182 and I was like, this is awesome. And then someone gave me one or the Just and Justice for All by Metallica, and I was like, what is this pussy bullshit I've been listening to? Metallica is the way to go. And that's like that was where I stuck with all that stuff. Like
and Matt never grew up from there.
No. I still love And Justice for All. But I mean like and I'll listen to Blink-182 every now and then now, and I enjoy it. I'm like, oh yeah, this reminds me of being 11 again or whatever. But it doesn't have the same effect that it did when I was 11 and listening to that. I was like, this is the most hardcore, fast punk I've ever heard. This is so punk, And then I heard like Blackened by Metallica, and you're just like, yeah, no. This is way more hardcore than whatever that is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, or One or something. You hear One, you're like, oh, this is about murder and war and devastation. Misery, and Blink-182 is about fucking a girl or something,
Yeah.
or a girl broke your heart.
That girl broke my heart. Okay.
And we're gonna have like a fast beat to it or whatever. So yeah, it just has like that feel to it. That's what this is to me. But anyway, go on. What was your grade, John?
So I was gonna say overall, I think so. This is definitely above average for me, but not like amazing. So I'm gonna go with a 6.
6, very, very respectable grade.
Yeah,
you know, it's readable. It's fun. I would say you should read it. You know, and have fun. If you've never read it before, it's a fun read.
Yeah, I mean it's worth a read for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like this is. I'm glad we read it at Comixology. I don't know if I would go out of my way.
I wouldn't go out. I wouldn't go find the hardcover of this or something.
Yeah.
I need the hardcover of Wanted or something. But
need the
it is definitely better than the movie though. So if you've seen the movie and you're like, that was a piece of shit, read this.
Read that because it'll be better.
version.
Yes, I get 100% attest to that.
But yeah, I am going to give this a 5.5.
Always with the points.
Well, what? It's not a 5.7. It's a 5.5.
I didn't say. I just think it's funny. I've always been like on a
It's a 5.78,
and that's like 0.5.
This is Olympic grading we're doing. It's a 9.997.
Gotcha.
But yeah, this is a 5.
Just good enough for bronze.
A 5.5 for me. This isn't quite a 6 because, like I said, I mean, it is definitely better than. It's better than a 5, but it's not quite a 6. So that's why I'm giving it 5. Like 6 to me is like, yes, you should definitely read this. It is above average. Average is 5. Above average 6 and 7. Like B plus or whatever, you know. And then like 8, 9 is like an A, and like A, and then 10 is A plus. Like that's the highest of the highest. That's how I rate it. So
and we don't go up to 11 here, so 10.
I mean, we might go up to 11 on certain books depending on what we hit. But,
we'll see.
But either way, this one just felt like if you haven't read it, sure read it, but like it definitely is dated. There was definitely stuff that irked me, like if the art wasn't like that, or like if the story had some of those plot holes that I didn't have some of those plot holes, I would be like a little bit more moving towards 6 or whatever. But like I'd be more wanted to give it 6. Yeah, it would have been higher.
He wanted to give it a higher score, but
I wanted to be higher. But I want you to be higher. But yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, 5.5 for me, 6 from John. On that note, what are we reading next week, John?
Next week we're going to be reading. You said Miracle Man.
Miracle
right?
Man, Volume 1. Have you read this? Do you know what this is?
Nope.
All right.
I didn't listen to your review of Volume 2 because I knew we were going to read it eventually.
Yes.
So I was like, I'm going to wait.
So I did a review on YouTube for Volume 2 and Volume 1, kind of, because in my...
You did a recap.
I did a recap in my vlogs when I was doing those. So, but I switched my format, and I'm just doing straight reviews of single hardcovers and stuff now. So I did a review of Volume 2 because Volume 2 is the crazy one in this one, at least from what I've read. But Miracle Man is a series from the 80s written by Alan Moore. It is his first thing that he wrote like before DC, before he did Swamp Thing, before DC. Watchmen, before
Swamp Thing.
All that stuff. So I thought, this is going to be proto Alan Moore, where he's not quite got all his ideas fully developed, and this is his first attempt at doing a deconstruction this is Alan Moore apparently at birth came out of his mother's womb with fucking I hate superheroes and I'm going to write books that deconstruct superheroes and stories that tear apart or explore the unexplored in these stories. And this book is that. This book is what if Superman was real? Or actually not Superman. It's what if Shazam was real, actually. Because the character is very much a Shazam ripoff. It used to be Marvel Man. This is an actual hero, by the way. In England, because there's no copyright stuff over there from American books. So they were like, this is in like the 40s. They were like, we're going to make Marvel Man. And it's the same. He says a word as a child and then becomes Marvel Man.
Oh, wow.
And then, has a family and everything and all this stuff. So a total ripoff. And then the character, went defunct for a while. Then Alan Moore came back and with Eclipse Comics, which is like an indie publisher in the 80s, wrote Marvel Man. his deconstruction version of that.
You Miracle Man.
No, it was called Marvel Man when he put it out.
When he put it out, okay.
I believe. Maybe in England it was called Marvel Man. Then they changed it to Miracle Man when they released it in the United States. And then, because of copyright, obviously, and then there was like a whole fucking trial that happened with who owns what. Because I believe it was Neil Gaiman, Todd McFarlane, and Alan Moore had a big kerfuffle about who owns something in this and whatnot and who owns the rights and stuff. And so that was in limbo for like 20 years. When I worked at the comic book store, they were like, the best book I've ever read is Miracle Man, and you will never see it in print because of the lawsuit that's ongoing for like 20 years or whatever. Apparently that lawsuit got figured out because Marvel ended up winning it. Somehow Marvel got the rights to it. I don't know. I don't know how that happened, but Marvel got the rights to it, and they reprinted it in 2014. They did a PC version, you know, like a, hey, family-friendly version of this, and a actual reprint of the originals. And so we got them actually reprinting them in hardcovers, and I read them, and I was like, holy fuck, John needs to read these. So we're going to do that, and I can't wait for you to tell me what you think of it. It's fucking awesome and crazy.
Oh, I'm excited.
This has become one of my favorite things of all time. Like I said, Alan Moore, that son of a bitch, was born with like the best fucking ideas for anything in that crazy head. He was born with his beard and a pen in his hand. So, yeah. On that note, if you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at planestrains.comicbooks, all one word, at gmail.com.
And don't forget about our Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube channel for exclusive content. And we picked our winner. We picked our winner for our YouTube contest. So our 100 subscribers, we let it go a little bit longer, just a little bit over. Make sure, you know, if anybody drop off or anything.
Yeah.
But we hit our 100. We're past it now. We're going to go on to, I think, 500 is our next goal. But our stretch goal.
10 million.
But we picked our winner, so we will be contacting shortly. We put all the names, and by all names, the couple this time.
Yeah.
You guys, nobody wanted to win a Comixology gift card.
People didn't want to win Comixology gift card, so we only had like 3 names to pick out of a hat. So
yeah, so this one wasn't hard, but maybe for the next one will be more. Unless you guys look, you're listening to a comics podcast, we thought Comixology gift card, right? Well, sounds good to us. But if there was something more in Comicsy line that you would,
let us know. Maybe you want us to send you a hardcover or something. Or
yeah, well, I don't know about that, but
I don't know. I mean,
sign,
do it.
But we sign it, not from the artist.
we sign a Planes, Trains, and Comic Books to you.
Yeah, but hey, you know, if you really like it, and maybe you're like, hey, you guys should make a T-shirt or something. Like, okay, well, we can send you.
Yeah, let us know.
Some swag or something. But yeah, let us know what you think. But yeah, so we'll pick our winner, and we will be contacting shortly. And on that note, I guess we'll see you on the next one.
See you on the next one.